Welcome back, guys. I want to discuss with you today on More Deer Outdoors. Important topic, at least it is to me, and I'm sure it is to several of you guys out there in YouTube land that deal with wild game meat. Occasionally, some all the time. High prices food has got nowadays. We have more people getting into trying deer meat and things of that nature because even people that's never ate it and things like that. And we still have people out there today that's eating deer meat that's been doing this their whole life and hasn't figured it out. First and foremost, let me say this about anything I tell you on my channel or anything that I have achieved to any goodness in my life. I give God credit for all things in my life that come to me good. The Bible tells me that all good things come from above, and I believe it. And so I want to share this good thing with you. I want to share 4 ways. If you're having issues with the taste of your wild game, I'm talking about deer, elk, moose, any of the big game, any of that type of stuff. Sometimes some of it just has a gamey flavor to it. Now I understand there's some parts of the country that don't have to deal with that evidently, because I get comments, people talking about, well, it's not gamey in my area, we don't have that kind of problem and all this kind of stuff. And that's wonderful, but if you live down here in the southern states, I can promise you, if you go out and shoot a white-tailed deer and bring it home and hang it up and cut it up, maybe even if you done had it field dressed, even before you got home, it ain't going to matter. Not with what I'm talking about, it ain't going to matter, because I've done it a lot of times and it didn't matter. So I want to just share with you today what I know personally about getting your deer meat or any other, the moose, elk, any of it, to taste like it should taste. Let's just put it that way. It'll be just like a good, meaty, wonderful taste. In other words, just like a beef's supposed to taste like a beef, then a venison's gonna taste like venison. If it's elk, it's gonna taste like elk. If it's moose, it's gonna taste like moose. However, most people have accepted that deer just has a gamey flavor, and that's it, and ain't nothing you can do about it. And so what they do, they try to put their deer meat in chili, and spaghetti, hot tacos, anything with high spice ingredients to try to cover up the flavor, okay, where they can eat it. And that works to a certain point. But me personally, I've always still been able to taste it anyway, no matter what. I could just still tell something wasn't right, like it wasn't beef. And so throughout the years, I have just constantly tried to figure out, ways of getting it out and making it taste better and things like that. Now, back in the old days, I'm just going to tell you, and a whole lot of people don't agree with this, but we used to here in the southern states, and still do, most people do, they just take an ice cooler and they'll quarter their deer up and put it into an ice chest and change salt in it and change the water in it every day for about 3 days. And it kind of gets the blood off of it and washes it and this and that and other. And I reckon, to some certain extent, it might get some of the game flavor out of it. But from my experience with it, that salt water will only penetrate that meat about a 1/4 inch deep. So when you cut into it, even if you've had it in that salt water for 3 days or 4 or 5, it ain't really going to matter. You can cut into that meat about that deep and it's going to turn red again. In other words, that salt water hasn't got down into and penetrated into that meat, so therefore it hasn't done really anything to it. Okay, so I want to eliminate that process, and I have. I don't use that process anymore. And if you like that and that's working for you, hey, you stick with it because that's, you know, that's what you like, and that's what you need to be doing. But I want to discuss with others who may be looking for a way to eliminate the gamey flavor 100%, because I believe God has blessed me with ways of doing it. Matter of fact, 4 ways. I've been blessed to have a walk-in cooler here at my place. I do some processing for the public. I don't do a lot of it, and I don't really desire to do a lot of it, but I do some, and I'm a full-time taxidermist. And so I keep a little something going on around here pretty much all the time. But in my walk-in cooler, when I get a deer, I will take it and put it into the cooler, and it will be hung up, okay? And I'll put a drip pan under it to catch anything and all that. And hey, shut the door. I keep the temperature running anywhere from 33 to 38, 39. I don't ever get it to 40 or above. And that's something else important, the temperature itself, wherever you're going to do this at. When I tell you, that temperature at least needs to stay under 40, in my opinion, down to 33, somewhere in that temperature zone. And so, all right, that's one of the places I'll put my deer. And of course, that's the only place normally I've used mine now, simply because I'm blessed with a walk-in cooler. But I'm going to tell most of you out there that don't have a walk-in cooler, and I know there's hundreds of thousands of you out there that more than likely don't have a walk-in cooler. And so I want to share with you 3 other ways that you can do the same thing that I'm doing with my walk-in cooler and get the same results, because I've already tried it and it worked for me. The cheapest way I know, other than my walk-in cooler, is back to the ice chest. A moment ago we talked about the ice chest and the salt water and stuff. We're going to use the same ice chest on this technique, but we ain't going to put it into the meat in it the same way. What I want you to do with this technique is fill your cooler about 3/4 full of ice. You can actually use ice bottles that you've frozen in the freezer. If you don't spend the money on the ice, it can get expensive buying all that ice to do this. I would recommend actually freezing ice bottles. Even if you buy cases of drink bottles, the smaller ones, just freeze the whole case, 2 of them, and you can rotate those in there while all this is going on. And so put your ice on the bottom of the cooler and lay the meat on top. You might want to get you some small racks to put it on or whatever, but you don't have to. The ideal is don't let that meat get down into any water, and leave it to where air can circulate it inside the cooler. Now, I took a cooler myself, one of those real long coolers. I forgot how many quarts it is. I mean, it's just a cheap, and you can get it at Walmart or anywhere your hardware store maybe or something like that. No expensive cooler. It ain't got to be a Yeti and all that kind of stuff. It'll work in a cheap cooler. And so take it and get you a thermometer and put it in there. I would recommend a temperature gauge of some kind. Once you get your ice and your meat in there, shut the lid and put that thermometer in there and give it time to get everything cooled down. I wouldn't even open that cooler for another 2 days probably, and then open it and check your temperature gauge and make sure it should be at least 39, 38, somewhere in that area. That's the way mine worked anyway. I can't speak for everywhere, and I understand it'll matter where your cooler's setting and all. You want to obviously keep your cooler out of the sun and all that kind of stuff, and keep it in the coolest place as possible if you're going to use that technique. But leave your meat in there. I'm going to speak at the end of this video on how long. So for right now, let's just leave it at that. You've got it in on top of the ice. We're going to shut the lid, and we're going to talk in a moment about how long to leave it in there. All right, number 3 technique. Most everybody's got an extra refrigerator somewhere or something, and especially outdoorsmen, maybe out in your garage or something like that. The kind that have the racks in it are the best that I have found. You can take an old refrigerator. It doesn't have to be, you don't need a new refrigerator to do this. just as long as the temperature, like I said, is staying under 40. You can take it and lay your meat directly up on those racks in that thing. Put you something where to catch the drippings off of it. And it will do the same thing as I'm accomplishing in my walk-in. Number 4 way, if you have a vacuum sealer and you'd prefer to do it this way, this is called what they call wet age. And this hasn't been around that long. I actually tried it. I didn't really care for it that much. Hey, it worked. But I personally like to do it the other way, or other 3 ways. Let me put it that way. But however, if it's the only way you can do it, it does work. And what I mean by vacuum sealant, go ahead and debone your venison or whatever you have off the bone, put it into vacuum seal bags, and then just stick it in the refrigerator somewhere. And so it's a cleaner way of doing it, let me say that. If you're in a position to where, you don't have a way to do this rack thing and, dripping and all this kind of mess, I mean, it is a cleaner way, and it may be a better way for most people to do it. Put it into a vacuum sealer bag, put it in the refrigerator, and leave it. And let me say this, once we get to the point, I'm fixing to discuss how long to leave it in each one of these coolers in the next topic. But let me say this about the wet sealing before we leave from there. Once you get this vacuum sealer bag out of your refrigerator, it's going to have quite a bit of liquid build up in that bag. I mean, you will see it. Now, it's the same thing, if you go buy a vacuum seal real by lawn most of the time, you'll see that red kind of liquid in the bag. That's what I'm talking about. You're gonna need to take that and stick some holes in it or somewhere and drain that off of there. And I would recommend taking some good cool cold water and rinsing it off real good and getting it cleaned off. Okay, let's just say we have had our meat in the walk-in, in the ice cooler, or in the refrigerator with both of those techniques. Let's just say 7 days. Most people want to say, 7 days, that'll do it for all the deer. Well, I'll have to disagree with that. And the reason why, because I've done tried it too many times and it just doesn't work for all deer. And the reason why is because of the age. Most people just ain't never thought about these things. The reason why is because the age of the animals, they differ. I mean, you take a 6-year-old buck and maybe, during rut season, I mean, he's got, he's in a state of strong smell. And then you take a 2-year-old young doe at that time. Well, she's not going to be like this older buck, whether he's in rut or not. It's mainly the age thing and what takes the difference in the times in the coolers. And so there's no set time that I can sit here and tell you at any of those techniques that you can go out there. All right, he said it was 7 days. Go out there and get it, cut it open, and it's going to be ready to go. And the reason I can't tell you that is simply because of what I just stated. It is an age factor with animals is one thing. And not only that, it could be what these animals have been feeding off of, could fall into that category of taste with them and things like that. I will say this, I have never to yet, since I have learned these techniques, found any animal at any age so far that I have not been able to get the game flavor out of doing this. They may be, I have had a couple, 2 or 3, it was pretty tough, but I kept fooling with them and I got it out. And so keep that in mind, that you're going to experience, if you start trying to do what I'm talking about, you're going to start experiencing different times of taking that meat actually out and going ahead and finishing processing it. Now I'm talking about even if you're wanting to grind it up and use it for, venison burgers and stuff like that, man. I mean, it will still have a game flavor to it if you don't do what I'm recommending. So, grinding it up ain't going to matter because it's still going to be there. So you gotta leave it in there until it gets out. All right, here's the $1,000,000 question. How long do I leave it in there? Hey, it's been my experience, and the only way I have been able to figure this out is by smell. And so what I do, I will take and cut into the deepest part of the muscle of that particular animal. And I'm just gonna simply stick it up there and smell of it. And I mean, I'm talking about down to the bone in the hind quarter. You want to really get up close and personal with this, what I'm telling you. Get in there and smell of it. And if you can smell any odor whatsoever, it's not ready to process and it's not ready to eat. I don't care if it's been in there 12 days, 14 days, or even 21 days. If you can still smell anything inside that meat, leave it in there. Okay, that's what I go by. Now, let me talk about just a couple of times that I have been food. I have taken them out. I have went out there and done that before. I've cut into the deepest part. I smelled. I didn't smell anything. Okay, this one's ready to go. I pull it down, bring it into the shop, start processing, and for whatever reason, some of the parts on the inside, I'll start smelling something again on them. So what I done to correct this problem, and hey, you can do the same thing. If you run into that problem, and you start cutting into it, and you know, well, I didn't smell it when I first started, but I do smell something now. Hey, it's no big deal. Go ahead and cut it up in smaller pieces and put it right back into where it came from, whether it be a walk-in, fridge, whatever way, kind of way you're doing it, just put it back in there into smaller pieces. It will normally take about 2 days from that point on, 2, 3 max, 3 max. And you should be able to get it from that point and take a knife and slice it open and smell nothing. So that's what you're trying to obtain to have the best tasting wild game meat that you can possibly put in your mouth. I mean, it will literally change the way you think about wild game meat. It has me, my family, and several of the people that I have had to try. Like I said earlier, there's been some families that wouldn't even eat wild game meat till they ate some of mine. And it's just like, it don't have any kind of a taste, even close to what it had before you done this. I mean, it changes the whole taste of it. And not only does it change the whole taste of it, hey, you can cut it up a whole lot better too. Once you get this thing aged, all of those slime and bloody old stuff is gone, man. It'll dry out, and it just makes it so much nicer to process. And just the whole system of what I'm trying to tell you is a better way to get the best flavor out of your deer meat. Well, I hope you've picked up on some tips today concerning some of the things that I've shared with you. And hey, if you got any problems with this and you go try this and something don't work out, you always can come back to my channel, Mo Deer Outdoors, and go to the comment. If I see them, I'm gonna respond to you. And if you're having some hang-ups with it and you've tried this or tried that and it ain't working, let me know, and I'll try to work it out with you, because I believe I can. I haven't failed yet since I've learned how to do this, and I believe you can do the same thing and help feed and provide for your family in definitely a better tasting way. You have a wonderful day, and subscribe to my channel if you hadn't done that already, and hit that like button. Hey, I'm gonna share lots of other things with you throughout the future that might help you, and maybe you can share some things with me. We out of here for today.